Hello, hello. It's Lynn from Midlife No Crisis, and it's time to start winter sowing. I'm so excited. Have not done this method before. Look at all those jugs back there. I started last night. I've got that counter. I'm in the basement. I've got this other counter, and then there's a third counter back there. I've got about 43 containers for my first try here at winter sowing. So I'm going to show you how I prepped your basic milk jugs. I have a few other containers that I think I'm going to like better, but mostly I have your milk jugs. Okay, let's see if we can prep a milk jug here and show you the basics. I used a glue gun to put 4 holes in the bottom, get it pretty hot, and that just goes right through. 2, 3, I had already 4, so that gets 4 holes in the bottom, if you can see those. And then I put 3 around the sides for just in case the bottom were to get plugged up. Don't want to have any flooding in there, so that was pretty simple. I know people use other techniques, but that worked out pretty easy. And then I've got just a straight edge. I start over here at the corner, straight single-edged razor, and it goes really easy through 2 sides like that, and then just grab a pair of scissors, come along with the rest of it until you're back over toward the handle, almost there. And that's it. That's all the prep. That's pretty simple. A lot easier than I thought it would do. And I did most of these jugs last night, almost 40 jugs I did last night, probably I'm going to say in less than 30 minutes. It wasn't bad at all. So anyway, that's a simple jug prep. I'll join you back when I'm ready to start putting something else in them. Okay, I finished all the milk jugs. They were super easy to do with the glue gun. It was nice and hot. And somebody gave me a couple of these cat litter containers. They actually were pretty easy to do with the glue gun too. Took me a couple of extra seconds maybe, but I decided to melt through like that and put 6 holes in the bottom. I'll maybe have to melt back through. I did this last night. A little harder since I've already cut the top. Okay. But I was afraid that the glue gun wouldn't work with this tougher plastic, and with the white plastic, it actually seems to do okay if you just give it a couple of seconds, and it'll go right through. Same thing, don't want it to flood, so I think I put 2 holes on each side like that. And then I wasn't sure how tall to cut it. Well, am I taking advantage of the height? You know, here I only want about 4 inches of dirt, but am I taking advantage of the height here? Maybe I should have cut it down here to have more on the top. I don't know. We'll figure it out since this is my first year doing it. But I really like these taller containers, especially if I'm planning on doing some larger plants, like maybe artichokes or something. So I'm looking forward to this. I only have 2 right now, but I got a couple of friends that use this kind of kitty litter, and so they've just said they would get me some more. Now, I was really surprised a couple of friends gave me like juice containers, etc. And I mean, this clear plastic, the glue gun won't touch it. I mean, it just will not, you know, won't do its thing. So I'm gonna have to round up the drill, maybe get a drill bit or something to do the bottom. Same on these other 2 clear containers that I have. Okay, I want to document my very first winter sown jug. So I took some potting mix, put it in a tote here, and put in about 2 gallons of water to pre-moisten it. It absorbed the water pretty good. And then I've got my little workstation set up over here. Please tell me the first one takes the longest, because rounding up all the materials. So I grabbed a jug, it was already pre-done, put the dirt in the bottom, and then I don't know if you can tell, I decided to take toilet paper tubes and cut them in half. So I've got some here. So I went about, I don't know, maybe half the height with the pre-moistened potting soil, and then I put the little tubes in and put the rest of it around. So from the top, can you see the tubes? Let's see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 tubes in this one container. And then, you know, deciding what to put in it. I actually changed my mind halfway through. I had found some grease pencils goodness, that have got to be from the 1980s. No kidding. I have not used these or seen these in a million years, but I did find that I had a whole box of them. And I have heard that grease pencils is one of the best ways to mark jugs and not have, you know, any fading or anything. Strawberries was fine for this mix. I had a pack of strawberry seeds that have this little red coating on them. Do you see that little red coating? And I decided I'd put 2 or 3 seeds in each little cell there. It said to barely cover, so I think I can just take the end of a nail or something and poke it down. Let's see. And get those covered up a little, or even, you know, just cover up with my finger. And that would be fine for the strawberry seeds. So I will go through and cover all these up. Once I get them covered up, I will tape my container. Okay. Might be easier to cover by putting some dirt on top of it. I like that it had that little red coating on it. Made it easy for me to see. So some of the other ones, you know, when the seeds are so tiny and kind of almost look like dust, that's gonna be hard to see. Forgive the dirty fingernails. Of course, I've already been digging in dirt. So there you have it. Now I will close this up and grab my duct tape. Okay, getting started with the duct tape here, trying to hold it together. I got about 3 strips of duct tape that I cut like this. Might have to have a little bit more. So, this way with it. Yeah. Got a little gap right there. Let's see, I had a piece that I messed up. See if I can use that here. There you go. Got it all taped up, and she's almost ready to go outside. I don't know if you can tell, I sat on the top of a box lid here to catch the extra moisture that's already draining out of the bottom. And then I took just a plain water bottle like this, and it's real easy to take a nail and poke through the top to poke holes in it. Put that in there. See, it just goes through just like that to make like a very finer mist spray. I had heard that if you put just regular pour water in the top to water them a little more, it's like too much, and the seeds that are very lightly planted, that would be a problem. So if I stick that up now, you can see that it's just going to stick a little water like that in it. And supposedly when you put it out into the regular atmosphere, you may or may not need to ever add water again. We'll see. On a sunny day, they said at least once a week, make sure you're checking to see that you have some condensation on the inside of the jugs as long as they're outside. And if they're not, they say if they don't have condensation, that 1 full water bottle like this should be enough to water 2 jugs. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, this is a reminder to self about blueberry seeds. They're like dust. Can you even focus in and see any? Little tiny. There were supposedly 50 in the little packet. Looked like dust. There's just no way to separate them out. This little tiny packet. Yeah. So I just put them all in one container. They're very slow to germinate, it says, and it's 1 to 2 years before you get to put them out anyway. So I'll just be buying 1 gallon blueberry, which I do have. I've already bought some, but wanted to try it. We'll hang in there, see how it goes. The dust was on top, and then it said to put just a very light bit of peat moss on top, and I'll dampen it down too, but just a bit. This one container, because it was blueberries, recommended peat instead of regular potting soil, so I did this one separately. But note to self: let's don't try to buy blueberry seeds again. That just was different. But there you go. Okay, here we are for another day of winter sowing. Seems like now, ever since I used up my initial supply jugs, every time I get a few, I want to see what else I can sow. So I've saved up 14 more jugs. Last time I was just doing primarily the milk jugs and using the glue gun. You saw how easy that was. It was hot enough, etc. But then for my clear plastic containers that different people had given me, the glue gun was just not hot enough. So I had to dig out my soldering iron, and that became super easy. But then I knew what people were talking about when some people said they didn't particularly like using the soldering iron because you do get some fumes. All right, so let me just show you that. So here is soldering iron, milk jug, again, which the glue gun worked fine on with no fumes whatsoever. But just so you'll have an idea, when I'm using the soldering iron, it goes too easy, but can you see just a slight, I don't know if you can tell from the video, if you can see the fumes. I hope you can. But it does have some slight smokiness to it there. Goes through faster, of course, but I was very pleased with the speed, even with the glue gun. You know, I was just amazed. I did what, like, that first night I did like 30 jugs or something in probably 30 minutes. It was not bad at all. And that was the whole thing, the holes, the cutting and everything. So I don't know if you can see the fumes a little bit, but you do get some fumes. Again, I had no choice when it came to the heavier plastic, but I'll show you again just how, again, the glue gun was not going to touch something like this, so I had to use something stronger. Soldering iron does fine for me. I don't mind it, but I understand now what some people were saying about having some fumes with that. Okay. Likewise, I was very surprised with the clear plastic. It didn't seem like that would be real tough, but glue gun wouldn't touch it. Soldering iron goes right through it. Give it just a second. And there you go. Okay, so that'll give you an idea. Overall, I've been extremely pleased. Certainly an easy process to do, and I'm super excited. It's been at least 2 weeks now for the first jugs that I originally did. They're outside and they're already sprouting, so that's exciting. Okay, let's peek into the top of these jugs and see what's going on. These rainbow carrots are sprouted. A little while later, showing them growing and ready to transplant out into pots. Green globe artichokes are doing very well. Cardoon is doing very good. Lemongrass has some tiny sprouts. Poppy is sprouted well. You can see it in there. Purple lovegrass, I don't see anything. Lavender Munstead has some tiny sprouts, I see. Broccoli is sprouted. Blueberry, I don't see anything. Strawberry, maybe some teeny tiny sprouts. Lettuce, few tiny sprouts. Red Russian kale doing fantastic. Sweet banana peppers, maybe a few in there. Tomato Cherrylicious is sprouted. Lamb's ear, I don't see anything. Asparagus, not yet, but it later did well. Looks like a white wax onion sprouted. Little blue stem grass, don't think so. Chicory, yes, sprouted. Petunia, tiny sprouts. Larkspur sprouted. Cayenne, long slim red, I don't see anything. Elderberry, nope. Dwarf petunias are sprouted. Pansy, Swiss giant, tiny sprouts. Cabbage, Copenhagen, tiny sprouts. Utah tall celery, lots of tiny sprouts. White Lisbon bunching onion, I see one. Parsley, no. Dill, not yet. Thyme, not yet. Red garnet amaranth, lots of beautiful sprouts. French breakfast radish, beautiful sprouts. Little finger carrots, lots of sprouts. Asparagus bean yard long, decent sprouts. Marigold crackerjack has sprouts. Cabbage Copenhagen sprouts. Early bird zinnias sprouts. Nasturtium sprouted. Cauliflower, yes. Pansies, Swiss giant, tiny sprout. Goodness, it is, let's see, the beginning of March. I still have construction going on in my house, so not able to plant out some of my winter sowing in places I would like to, but I'm going to try to get a few things out because I need to. For example, these sweet peas I've got here, I'll turn around and show you. They are absolutely busting out of their pot. Okay. So here was my sweet pea winter sowing jug. These were all coming out of the very top hole.
And I opened it up, and look at that will to survive. This little booger right here is going through the handle and out, and then through the spout. I mean, they are ready to go in the ground. Unfortunately, this is kind of the only safe area I have to plant in right now, and it's on the north side of the back of my house. Again, construction's still going on out here, so this is a disaster. And all the places that have decent light or sunshine are still at risk of being torn up. So I'm going to come along this fence right here on the back of my patio, get these sweet peas out, and hey, it's an experiment. Let's just see if they survive. Oh my goodness, turned it over. Look at all those roots in the bottom. It's pretty incredible. Get these out of here. Look at these babies. Got them out of the jug. Look at all those roots. So I believe they were in the jug for about a month, but it was the month of February. I wasn't expecting them to get so big. Oh well, I'm gonna separate these babies out and then try to get them planted. I'm excited. Okay, dokie. Got our little sweet peas in. Let's see what we got. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like we got 10 across here. Ooh, Lordy.
Why is it 10?
That's my little helper. Came out to help me.
Yeah.
You came out to help me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So now we gotta go get the hose and get these little sweet peas watered in, okay?
Yeah, and you got to feed them.
And gotta feed them.
Yeah.
The dirt will feed them. Remember they had all those roots? And that dirt's feeding that plant. You're right. All right, let's go get the hose.
That was fun for me. I enjoyed looking back at that very first attempt at winter sowing in 2003. That I could have done some things better. In hindsight, I'd recommend a better quality potting soil, probably using less water in that original mix. To go in the jugs. It looked like that was pretty wet. Although you saw we had lots of success with it, so it's hard to argue with. Also, would like to note that probably these seedlings, especially if they end up staying in the jug for a longer period of time, as they've matured, that I should have been adding maybe half-strength liquid fertilizer or something. I was doing nothing. So there was great neglect on my part. So I wouldn't want you to judge the success of the method based on my aftercare. So I'd rather determine success based on whether or not things sprouted. So in my first attempt, I didn't start until the beginning of February. Your winter sowing experts, they say that you could start in the Northern Hemisphere as soon as the winter solstice, and the winter solstice is what, December 21st or 22nd each year. So that could have been started a lot sooner. In South Carolina, I'm really hesitant to start too soon because our temperature variation across a day can be extreme. We still get hot days here and there, and I'm not sure I had enough ventilation. Now I could always add more holes in the top. Could always add more holes in the bottom if you think certain jugs are not draining as well, et cetera, et cetera. So those are all things that I could have done a much better job at nurturing those seedlings. But winter sowing also prides itself on being a method that's kind of, start and forget, the lazy gardener's method. But I would like to do a little bit better, especially now that I'm retired. This is my second week of retirement, so I'm hoping that I'll do better this time. Look good here. I play it safe with my seedlings. You also don't want to wait too late in the season to start, because some seeds require vernalization, like they need to think they've had a winter. I play it safe by storing my seeds in a refrigerator that I happen to have downstairs in my basement, so that since I'm not really up on in my memory which seeds do require a winter or a cool period and which do not, I store them all there to try to play it safe. So we looked in those jugs. When I was looking at all those jugs, we were just 2 weeks into the process. I was so excited, and I feel like the method was extremely successful. So given that I started almost 80 jugs in February. I want to give props to the plants that actually made it through all my neglect, all my ill preparedness. Which ones did well with the winter sowing, obviously, but given that I didn't even get a raised bed started until like May-ish, those sat in the jugs for a long time with very little attention from me. So the ones that did well in my very first garden, I'm extremely impressed with those. And what were they? Let's see. Green globe artichokes. You saw that they were starting very well. They grew into nice plants. It was a joy, and I want to get those in a permanent location in my garden. Lemongrass did well. I still have lemongrass, and I've tried to overwinter some this year. I still will probably start more by seed just to be sure, but nonetheless, poppies did well. Munstead lavender did extremely well. Red Russian kale. Oh my goodness, we had plenty of kale and for a year. I was so surprised that it made it through the whole hot summer, through the fall, through the winter. It was fantastic. Asparagus. Now, when we looked in that jug at 2 weeks, I didn't see much there. Didn't see anything there, actually. But it ended up doing extremely well. That first season, you know, I had a very limited space that I could plant into because of the construction that was going on at my house. And then the next season in 24, I moved the asparagus to some new raised beds in a better area. They did much better. And so since then, I've had my son help me to move them again to an in-ground area because I think they're just going to be really good and plentiful. I'm looking forward to that. I mentioned that chicory did well in the jug with germination. And it was the most beautiful plant. I loved it. That very first year, it had these big, beautiful blue flowers on it. As a root, it's supposed to be like a coffee substitute, some herbal stuff. I've not gotten much education on that yet, but absolutely beautiful. Utah tall celery, fantastic. Did great in the jugs. When I finally got it in a raised bed, continued to thrive. We had tons of celery. It was wonderful. Okra did well. You didn't hear me mention it because it must have not been in that first group of 43 jugs I did. I did them all in the first half of February. But again, I did about 80 jugs. Okra did well in the jugs. Took them out, put them right in the ground against the fence. They did great. We ate okra that very first season. Georgia collards, they grew extremely well. The problem I had with them is that they became a trap crop. So I've got to get more knowledge about how do I handle the pests in my area, because I'd like to be able to eat my collards, not to watch the little buggies eat them all. I'm working on that. Tatsoi did extremely well. Arugula did extremely well. Greek oregano did fantastic. Chamomile. To my surprise, Jerusalem artichokes from seed. I was buying seed before I knew what was going on, and I would never normally think I would buy a Jerusalem artichoke seed, but I had. It was a little tiny pack of them. I've since found out I can buy the actual tubers on Facebook Marketplace from local people relatively cheaply, and that's much easier. But nonetheless, they sprouted from seed, popped up in my garden. When I put them there, they were just like little plants, and I had a huge, beautiful one this year in 24 that was huge, beautiful, and going to be a great multiplier for me. So I'm all set to get going with those Jerusalem artichoke. Lupine flower did great in winter sowing and also did great in the garden. So for my very first vegetable garden ever, winter sowing was great. I loved it. Those particular plants grew well in my garden with little or no care. Ooh, you're going to hear a choo-choo train coming through because I live near the train track. What I did well in winter sowing, but I still would not recommend winter sowing probably, is those sugar snap peas. You saw that they did fantastic, but because they were so intertwined, the roots were, I think that they were too traumatized when I tried to separate them that way. Plus I had left them in the jug way too long. If I decided to ever try that again with winter sowing, I'd probably just put 1 pea per little cup and put the cups in a tote. I've seen people do that as well. Carrots, those did well in winter sowing, but they do well with direct sowing into my beds as well. So I think I would just skip that step. They did grow in my very first garden, but they were all little, and I think they were just, again, traumatized. little too much for them. Radish, you saw I had stuff in the jug from February, March, April, maybe into May before they should have been mature and finished. They're a very short harvest number of days for radish, so no need there again. If I wanted to start them way early like that, at least separate them out so they could be planted as more like a plug and not disturbed like they were. Likewise with my beans, again, if I want to start them early, I could try individual containers of some sort, but they do fine going straight in the ground, unless I did have that first season a lot of trouble with understanding my pest situation. If little things were tiny and I tried to put them in the garden, I don't know if it was roly-polies or slugs or both, but they ate the seedlings immediately, and I had a hard time getting things big enough. So then I learned to start things by other methods and let them get to a larger size before I tried to put them into my garden. As the garden gets healthier, I think that situation will improve. And I think I mentioned already that I would never try to do blueberries or strawberries by seed again. Blueberries, just buy them as my recommendation would be to buy them as a 1 gallon plant already. Mine produce very well even into the first season. It's been a joy. My grandchildren love going out and picking the blueberries and just eating them. Very few make them in the house, but a couple of gallons did make it in. Strawberries as well. Whether bare root or strawberry plants, they're very inexpensive to get from other people. I go to Facebook Marketplace a lot to deal with locals, and just a couple of plants of strawberries, they are prolific, at least for me here in South Carolina. They are. They put out runners everywhere. Those are all individual plants, and before you know it, you have an entire bed of strawberries. Let's see, I have a list that started but did poor for me. I think it's due to my care, so I don't think I even want to go through that list with you. And likewise for the ones that did nothing at all. It was my first attempt, so I don't want you to judge negatively on a certain variation. Try them all. Seeds are not that expensive. There's some very good suppliers, and I just appreciate you being here with me. I'm getting excited. I should have already started winter sowing for this year, and I have not. I even had 24. I didn't do much winter sowing either, but it's because I really wanted to try traditional methods. So I do have one shelving system with grow lights, etc., that I set up last year, and I'll do that in a separate video. But I'm excited, and I appreciate you coming along with me, spending some time with me today. And you have a blessed day. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.